Hi, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And as of right now, this is the last request for Bronson, which he was very generous. He was very kind. He sent, I think it was 16 requests. Very generous, just completely generous of him. Sorry it took a while to get to, but I do appreciate it. And it was fun. It was fun to revisit and re-review a lot of these movies. And this time I'm ending that part with My Cousin Vinny from 1992. So thank you, Bronson. I hope these reviews were good for you. But I really do appreciate your kindness on that. Now, My Cousin Vinny is directed by a guy named Jonathan Lynn. And he's made a couple films I've enjoyed. Clue. That's a very... For a film based on a board game... It doesn't have any rights to be that good, but it's actually a pretty funny one. Especially Tim Curry. Yeah, Christopher Lloyd, Michael McKean, great cast. He also did The Distinguished Gentleman, which I always thought was a bit of an underrated Eddie Murphy film. Greedy, which is a Michael J. Fox film that I know is not the most well-liked, but I always got a kick out of that one, with him and Kirk Douglas. I always thought that was fun. And... pretty much the deal with this is, I believe at one point they wanted Andrew Dice Clay or Danny DeVito to star in the film. But Andrew Dice Clay, either he said no, or the studio, maybe they looked at the box office of films like Ford Fairlane, and they're like, we don't know about that. Although, from what I heard, he said no, which if he did, that's a mistake, because I think this... Joe Pesci did a great job. This would have been very interesting with Andrew Dice Clay. I think he could have pulled it off. But Danny DeVito was up for it. Eventually Joe Pesci got it. And just as Joe Pesci really climbing the ranks of success, because Home Alone had come out and was a big hit. I think he won the Oscar for Goodfellas when he was making the film. Now Goodfellas had come out and was a big hit as well. But I believe he won the Oscar while making this. Because from what I heard, there's even some raw footage of he's supposed to be at a prison on a bed, but he's holding the Oscar while he's sleeping. Which, sadly, that footage has never been... I can't find that footage. I guess like people said that footage exists in some studio vault, but sadly, I doubt we'll ever see that stuff. But yeah, Joe Pesci, of course, he was also in the Lethal Weapon films, Lethal Weapon 2. I think Lethal Weapon 3 came out the same year. And then this was a surprise hit. Studio did not think this film would be as much of a hit as it was. And Joe Pesci did a fantastic job as Vinny. The story of the film, before I go on, is these two guys. One of them is Ralph Macchio from the Karate Kid films. Him and his buddy, they're going across. They're in the South. They pick up supplies. And Ralph accidentally puts a can of tuna in his pocket because he has so much stuff. They buy it. He realizes too late. Damn it, I didn't pay for this. They get stopped by the cops. They ask him questions. He says, yeah, he's guilty because he thinks it's about this tuna. What he doesn't know is when they left, the shopkeeper was murdered. So now he's inadvertently said he's guilty to the wrong crime. To a crime he really didn't commit. So they're in deep shit. They are in trouble. And thus one thing leads to another, and Joe Pesci comes in. Because he is Ralph Macchio's cousin. Joe Pesci comes in with his girlfriend, played by Marisa Tomei. Now, Marisa Tomei, recent years, she was in the Tom Holland Spider-Man films as Aunt May. And I believe she won an Oscar for this role. She was at least nominated. I think she won. And she's a very spunky, attitude-filled girlfriend. She's not just a bimbo. She's very smart. She definitely knows her way about cars and mechanics. And just the verbal sparring her and Joe Pesci do is a lot of fun. Just the idea is that if Joe Pesci is successful with one case, they'll get married, but then she keeps browbeating him on, you're screwing up this case. What are you doing? You're screwing up. You're screwing up. And that's the thing. When you get to Joe Pesci and when he arrives in town, he does seem like the type of guy that he's never going to win this case. He definitely seems like the guy that's just in over his head. He doesn't know all of the rules of the courtroom. And he gets himself in trouble. He gets himself going to jail because he's in contempt. And this happens a couple times where he's in contempt and he has to either go to jail or pay a fine. And before we go on, a reason this film works is because of the cast. Joe Pesci, always been a fan of Joe Pesci ever since seeing him in films like Easy Money with Rodney Dangerfield. He was great in Home Alone 1 and 2, Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 3. I like him in this film called The Super, which sadly that film didn't do too well. I actually want to look up his filmography. That's why I'm looking down here. I didn't see some of these early ones, like The Death Collector or Dear Mr. Wonderful. I don't know if he has small parts in them. He was Michael Jackson's Moonwalker as the villain. I always forget about that. But yeah, Lethal Weapon 2, Goodfellas, Home Alone, The Super. JFK, he's good in that. Never saw The Public Eye. I heard it wasn't that great. Jimmy Hollywood, I don't think I saw. Casino is a good one. It Has in a Duffel Bag is okay because of him. And even David Spade. Like, it's an okay, goofy movie. I could watch it. Gone Fishing, I think it's fun. Definitely not a classic. A lot of people do not like it, but it's kind of has a warmth, heartfelt, with the way Joe Pesci and Danny Glover, they act like little kids, and you can tell they're good friends, and that kind of shows through on the screen. And I found a lot of fun with Gone Fishing. And he didn't do a whole lot after that. Lethal Weapon 4, then he was in something called Love Ranch in 2010, A Warrior's Tale, A Voice in 2015, The Irishman in 2019, and then something called Day of the Fight, where he played someone's dad. So there you go. So he's not in... He was not... I mean, he did retire, and he took a long break, and he only did a few things, and pretty much went back to retirement again. And hey, sometimes, if you have the money, you have the ability, why not? He's obviously did something right, saved his money, able to just relax, and, yeah, kind of stay out of the public, all the bullshit going around that time. But yeah, Joe Pesci was great. He really stood out for me. Ralph Macchio, it's cool to see him. Granted, he doesn't really have anything to do. I mean, you do see them talk from time to time, him and his buddy in jail, about whether Vinny can or can't do this. There's a few scenes between Joe Pesci and Ralph Macchio, but for the most part, they're just kind of in the courtroom, kind of staring, looking. And I did it. That's what the role required. At this point, Ralph Macchio wasn't really a big name anymore. I think people kind of felt, his time came and went. He had his time with the Karate Kid, but there weren't really any other big films he was in. I mean, he was in some films, but none that were as big as the Karate Kid, so I think they kind of just push him aside and go, he doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, sure, put him in this. But it's not like any of the advertising, anything said, Ralph Macchio's in this. Not at all. But, I mean, it's still great to see him in there. I think he did a good job. But again, for what little he had to do. That's why I just wished being a fan of Ralph Macchio, I do wish he had more to do. But I get it. It's not his story. It's Vinny's story. That's why it's called My Cousin Vinny. It's his story. It's his... He's the star. Fred Gwynne, may he rest in peace, who was the original Herman Munster on the Munsters. He was in the original Pet Sematary. Did a wonderful job as the judge, who's very respectful of the law, of the courtroom. And him and Joe Pesci going back and forth about Joe Pesci's dress code. But you were serious about that? And the courtroom stuff is definitely some of the funnier pieces of the movie. Lane Smith, who he was in The Son-in-Law with Pauly Shore. I think he was Perry White in Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman, the Dean Cain TV show. I think he was also in The Distinguished Gentleman from the same director as this one. Yeah, he was in there as the kind of the main villain of the movie. He gives his statement, and then Joe Pesci just comes in and goes, "Everything that guy just said is bullshit. Thank you," and just walks away. I crack up anytime I think about that. Anytime I see that clip, like on YouTube, I crack the fuck up. In fact, I don't know. I think there's been one or two reviews I've used that in. If not, I'll have to think about it in the future. I love that. Same with these two Utes. And Fred Gwynne was like, "What do you say? Utes? What is a Ute?" "Oh, I'm sorry, two Utes." So I thought that was really funny. Now, if I understand, if you talk with lawyers, this is actually one of the better representations of the law. Obviously not 100%. I don't know if there's been a film that's been 100% on that, but lawyers have said that, well, hell, even here, the director has an English law degree, and lawyers have praised the accuracy of My Cousin Vinny's depiction of courtroom procedure and trial strategy. Everything that happens in the movie could happen, and often does happen at trial. The art of presenting expert witnesses at trial for both beginning experts and litigators. The use of film to demonstrate rules of evidence, relevance, and cross-examination. Judge Richard Posner of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, one of the most prominent American federal judges in the late 20th century, said of My Cousin Vinny, "Particularly rich in practice tips, how a criminal defense lawyer must stand his ground against a hostile judge, even at the cost of exasperating the judge, because the lawyer's primary audience is the jury, not the judge. How cross-examination on peripheral matters can sow serious doubts about a witness's credibility. How props can be used effectively in cross-examination, like the tape measure that demolishes one of the prosecution's eyewitnesses. How they examine and cross-examine expert witnesses. How to dress for a trial. Contrasting methods of conducting a jury trial, and more." Vinny's terrible at things we do to teach in law school, but very good at things we don't, like how to interview clients, to gather facts, to prepare a theory of a case, to negotiate, to know when to ask a question, when to remain quiet, cross-examine a witness forcefully but with charm in order to expose the weaknesses in their testimony. So, yeah, but yeah, if you look on YouTube and stuff, there's a lot of lawyers that do praise the film in those aspects. And that's the cool thing about Vinny, is that, yeah, at first it's kind of almost like not quite the Columbo effect, but similar but not exactly. Where it seems like they're in over their head. This person doesn't know what they're doing. This person's an idiot. But then you realize, like, there's a reason they're here in the first place. And you really see on what they're doing. You see on how they cross-examine, whether it be one guy, "I looked at your place and took pictures. What's this?" Oh, that's a dirty window. What's this? Oh, well, that's dirty as well. Oh, what's this? There's trees there. Oh, what's this? There's leaves there. Oh, what's this? There's multiple bushes there. So somehow you saw through this dirt and through this grime of the screen and through these bushes and through these trees in order to see that. Or, for example, okay, you say you don't need glasses. You don't need new ones. You know, okay. And he puts the tape measure. I like the bit that he does this, and then Fred Gwynne is like, put down that he has two. The way Joe Pesci's like, Judge. And then Fred Gwynne, that's just like, sorry. He's very this apologetic. Like Fred Gwynne just seemed, he just has so much charm. Whether in Pet Sematary, whether in this film. I mean, even though at times he's the antagonist towards Joe Pesci, he still has his charm about him. This likable bit to him. I can't help it. That's really nice to see, and I thought it was a great casting choice for Fred Gwynne. Some of the bits that were funny, that may seem a bit goofier. The bit where he can't sleep and he hears this shriek. He's like, "What the fuck is that?" He goes, he just starts shooting, and we realize it's the owl. I liked how the owl turns. He's like, "What the fuck?" As if he's going to say, "What the fuck is that?" And Joe Pesci doesn't see the owl. He just freaked out. He goes back in, and the owl starts shrieking again. I don't know if owls shriek like that, at least that way. But I mean, if I heard that, I'd be freaked out too. And it does show that Joe Pesci, his way of getting out of trouble, like this guy that wants to keep fighting him, and he's like, "Oh, you got the 200? Where's the 200? I got it. Well, I mean, I can't do it until you got the 200, man." "Oh, you got 200? Okay, is that really 200, or is that just some stuff like in ones kind of rolled into a ball?" "Okay, count it out." "It's 200. Okay, count it out then." So obviously, like, he didn't think ahead. And then finally, once he's all had it, "I got the 200. And then Joe Pesci, he kind of does like a throw with the punch. It's like he got a hop and punch or something, but knocks the guy out. So it's another example that this guy is definitely full of surprises. I do think the film ran a little long. This is about a 2 hour running time. But I mean, I'm trying to think now, like, what did you cut out? And I mean, maybe there's bits here and there. But at the same time, like, the chemistry between Joe Pesci and Marisa Tomei worked very well. The witnesses, they definitely had their personality, their charm to it. The the supporting cast does a solid job. Yes, I do wish that Macchio had more to do, but like I said, I know it's called My Cousin Vinny. It's not about his character. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's a funny film. Joe Pesci does a really solid job, and then when he starts succeeding, you can't help but cheer him on. Like, yes, he's getting it. He's okay. This is what he's made of. This is why he was the right guy for the job. Okay, he could do this and this and this, and you become impressed with it. You're impressed with what he can do, and the interactions are entertaining. Even when he puts Marisa Tomei on the stand, and Fred Gwynne's like, "Do you know each other?" "Yeah, my fiance." "Oh, okay. I see where the tension's from." Other people, Bruce McGill as the sheriff. I enjoyed Bruce McGill. He was D-Day in Animal House. He was Jean-Claude Van Damme's boss in Time Cop. Always great to see him in a movie. Good character actor. Is this who I think it is? I want to double check, sorry. Yeah, Raynor Shane. He was the guy in the movie given the testimony where Joe Pesci goes, well, you can't see this through the screen, you can't see through the trees, you can't see through the bushes. He was Woodstock in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective when Ace Ventura was at the club, and then you had the guy who's on the computer that gives Ace all the info. That's Woodstock, so that means he did that after this one. So James Rebhorn, as a guy who's given testimony about these tire tracks, he's probably most well known for Independence Day. He's the guy who knew about Area 51. That's not entirely accurate. Well, Bill Pullman's, there's nothing, there's no Area 51, there's no spaceships, hidden things for the government. It's not entirely accurate. And then Jeff Goldblum's like, which part? So like James Rebhorn is the guy hiding the evidence. He eventually gets fired later on. He's been in other stuff, but I think that's the film people remember him the most. So he's good at that type of role. I mentioned Lane Smith, Fred Gwynne. Austin Pendleton, he's this lawyer who Rob Macchio, his buddy, when they're having doubts on Vinny, they said, we should get another guy. Austin Pendleton, this is another character actor that's always likes to see him in a movie. I always remember him in Short Circuit, the first one. He plays Steve Gutenberg's boss. He's the one who can't say, stat. I always remember him from that. He's also the dad in Mr. Nanny, the Hulk Hogan film, which is a film I don't think is good, but I remember watching it quite a few times as a kid. I mean, it has some goofy charm to it, but I wouldn't call it good. Like, as goofy it is, I do sincerely like Suburban Commando. Mr. Nanny, again, I wouldn't call it, but there's some stuff that it's nostalgic. Like, it's not a good film, but it's a nostalgic film, Mr. Nanny. First you defy me, then you mock my hair? You're dead! Rest in peace to David Johansen, who's the villain in that. Rest in peace to him. But yeah, My Cousin Vinny, it did well. Budget of $11 million, it made $52 million in the U.S. and overall $64 million worldwide. Marisa Tomei won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. Interesting. Austin Pendleton, his role as a stuttering and ineffective public defender. He suffered from stuttering as a kid before overcoming it. During filming, he did not enjoy dredging up bad memories from his teenage years. He was not pleased to be publicly associated with the character. Well, to be fair, you read the script. You saw they was in the script. It's not like it came out of the blue. You took the paycheck. You cashed it. I'm sure the script read, hey, you stutter. You took the job. What do you expect? Like, in 2022, he said he felt the role nearly ended his career, and after receiving angry letters from stutterers, said he regretted agreeing to perform the role at all. Wow, he received angry letters from stutterers? Was the letter like 3 times? Do they write It's like, I will kick your ass. Sorry. I want the knife. Please. I guess at one point there was talks of a sequel, but Marisa Tomei dropped out. Another writer was working on it to do a strip without Tomei's character, but eventually shelved. I guess there were a bunch of novels. Back to Brooklyn. Oh, there's about 3 books. Further cases of Vinny with his girlfriend Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa? I didn't know her name was Mona Lisa. Yeah, Mona Lisa Vito. Mona Lisa. Does she know Raphael? Anyway. This is a fun comedy. I don't really have many issues with it. I do think the film is a tad bit long at 2 hours. And just being a Rob Macchio fan, I would like to have seen more of him. But yeah, I did it with what the project had. But I think just Joe Pesci does a great job. Marisa Tomei is able to stand toe-to-toe verbally with him. There's a lot of funny lines. I already mentioned the 2 of my favorite. Everything he says bullshit and the 2 Utes. Fred Gwynne is a gem. He's so lovable. Even when he's antagonistic, he's still kind of lovable as the judge. I get people like Lane Smith and such give good support. Still nice to see Rob Macchio in there. I think once he starts able to do the job right, you're able to cheer for him. Like, yes, he's succeeding. He's got his head on straight. Okay. And obviously, as people have said, like it does follow a bit of the law, so there's a bit of believability to it. But yeah, My Cousin Vinny. I don't think there was ever a special edition done on the film, which you think for a film that, has a bit of a cult following, you think you would get it, but I'm not surprised. Hell, 3 Men and a Baby don't even have a fucking Blu-ray. Well, that's because technically Disney owns it. Well, I guess, don't they technically, wasn't this Fox? So don't they technically own this now? Actually, now that I think about it. Sorry, 1 second. Who does own this film now? Was it Fox? That means Disney owns this too. 20th Century Fox. So that means more than likely fucking Disney owns it, unless, fuck. Yeah, that fucking figures. Anyway, sorry for the rambling. Thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.